It doesn't have to be like this. It's not about exactly what color it is. It's if it's cold or a warm color. And I'm gonna talk about more about warm and cold colors later in my tutorials. As you can see now, I've skipped ahead from multiply and just started to rendering with the 3 colors that I have. And I also want to tell you that what I'm using right now is a laptop that I'm developing this on, and it's a really bad choice because laptops have really bad screens, so the color that I've chosen might be a totally different color than that you see on your screen. So when you work with anything digital, you should try to get a good screen so you have the right kind of color. So if you don't have that, you should look it up if the color is the right saturation on another computer as well, so it works. So take a normal TFT screen and look if it looks the same. So this will probably look a lot more saturated to you than it is to me right now, but later I will take this into one of my other computers and desaturate it if it's too saturated, just using one of the normal filter effects. See, I'm still just rendering out the colors, and always going back using the color in my palette. Having a color palette is often really important to games, depending on how many artists you have on a team. The more artists you have, the more important it is to have a solid color palette that everyone can use, so you have so that the style is unified in between the different artists working with different things. You can see I've jumped ahead again, given the character red eyes, burning red eyes, to make it more evil, and I started to rendering the background. The background is also something that's often very important when you're doing an art piece, and it's good to know that you don't always really have to do a rendered background like I'm doing now. I'm just using random shapes, bloodshedding out, but it makes the picture look better, that you have something in the background, even if it's just different colors like this. So when you have a finished art piece, try to do something like this. If it's not important that the character is in an environment, just blotch out some shapes, so you have some kind of background at least. And you can see it's just blotching out using different brushes. Make sure that you have good brushes when you work. Brushes can save a lot of time, and also they make the painting more personal, more lively. Only using the round brush will often make for a quite stale impression of it depends, but in my opinion it often makes the pictures kind of look computer rendered, too computer rendered to say. So you can see the background here wouldn't have looked anything close to what it looks right now if it would have been done with a round brush. So make sure to get some nice brushes and don't be lazy. Make some really good ones. It will help you out later, save you a lot of time. And it's always about time. I mean, in a production you always have to save time. So you can see here I'm starting to rendering the body now, and I didn't make a great sketch for it, but it's such a blotchy. I'm not going to do a fine rendering of this character. I'm just going to do a simple rendering. You can spend endless of hours for fine rendering, and I didn't feel it important at the time when I did this to make a fine rendering. It doesn't really, it's not the hard part, it's just a lot of work. So when you've got all these basic techniques, it's just multiply them with hours and you'll get a finished piece that looks really nice. I mean, I could take a look at many parts of this picture. It's like the left hand is not really well anatomically or in any way. There's a lot of things that can be done here. But on the other hand, I think we're starting to get a picture of how the character will look. So it's starting to get as finished as I could actually stop here sometimes if I feel that, well, this is giving me what I need. But this is actually going to be in the production in a little picture. So I'm going to render it some more than usual. But you also have to think about how much you render depending on the size of the picture, and make sure you make the sizes right. If it's going to end up in the game, this picture is 1024 times 1024. I'm going to resize this to half that before it goes into the game. And that's also a tip. I'll always make them a little bit bigger and then resize them to make them smaller. That helps out a lot. It's often nicer. It's much nicer to make a picture smaller than to make it bigger. You can see here I'm just rendering some more, working on her body. You can see she looks really mad right now. And that's what I was going for. She's a nasty beast, just with the form of a human, but she's not human at all. She's nasty. So you can see here I'm not really pleased with the stomach shape. So I zoom out a lot to get a feel of the shapes more. When I do detail, I zoom in, and when I do shapes, I zoom out. Another thing that I think is good for artists to think about is don't be afraid to kill your darlings. If things doesn't look the way you want them to look, redo it. And don't make thousands of layers if it's not needed for the productions. It's better to just learn to re-render directly on the same layers, or 2 or 3 layers. It's good practice. Of course, if you need to use the layers for some reason, of course you should use them, but it often becomes, when you have a computer, you often become scared of repainting, and it's counterproductive. You have to learn to not be afraid of remaking stuff. You